I didn't catch my husband cheating because I went snooping. I caught him because our baby monitor picked up his voice whispering, "Don't wake her. She cries if you move too fast," and the voice shushing him back wasn't mine. I'm 29, first-time mom, living in a small split level on the edge of Columbus, Ohio. The kind of place where the mailbox leans and the neighbor's dog barks at leaves. My husband then, was named Evan. We'd been together 6 years, married for 4, and had our daughter, June, in late spring. I had what my doctor called moderate postpartum depression. I call it feeling like I was underwater, while everyone else stood on land asking why I wouldn't just breathe. Money wasn't great, sleep was worse, and family help was a mixed bag. Evan's mom sprang for a postpartum doula a few nights a week, someone to help with sleep and laundry and show me how to swaddle without feeling like a cruel magician. Her name was Kendra. She was in her late 30s, competent in a way that made me feel both safe and small. "I've got you," she'd say, tilting her head at me like I was a glass about to chip. I wanted to believe her. What was at stake was everything. My marriage, my kid, my mind. The night I heard them, June had finally gone down after an hour of the slow dance I'd learned by instinct. Bounce, shush, sway, repeat. I set her in the crib in that careful deadlift moms do, then crept to the hall bathroom to splash my face. We had one of those Wi-Fi monitors that sends notifications when there's sound or motion. My phone lit up on the sink. At first, I thought it was just the white noise machine or June flailing a little in her sleep. Then I heard Evan's laugh through the tiny speaker. Low. Familiar. The kind he used when he was trying to make me soften after a tense day. "Hey," he whispered, voice barely above the machine's hush. "Don't, she'll stir." A woman whispered, "Relax." The camera is mounted above the crib, pointed at a slice of the room. The crib, the mobile, the corner of the glider. I couldn't see the doorway. I could hear it. The sound amplification on that thing is no joke. Every breath felt like it was happening in my ear. My brain tried to protect me. Maybe it's the TV downstairs. Maybe the monitor's picking up a neighbor's baby. Maybe I'm imagining this, because PPD makes everything feel like a trick mirror. But then the woman giggled, soft, close, wrong, and said, "You're so jumpy. Are you scared your wife will hear?" My hand slapped the pause button on the app, like I could stop time. I stood there with water dripping off my chin thinking, go in there, just go. But I didn't go. I froze. That's the part one hates admitting. I didn't burst in and catch him. I stood in a bathroom full of cracked tile and silence that felt like a scream and let the recording exist without interrupting it. I went downstairs after maybe 5 minutes, long after the audio picked up the door clicking and the room going quiet again. Evan was in the kitchen rinsing bottles, the picture of a man who'd just done his duty. He looked up and smiled like everything was normal. "How's our bug?" he asked. "She's asleep," I said. My voice sounded like someone else's. Kendra was gone. Her overnight shifts usually started at 10 p.m. and ran until morning. That night, according to the text she'd sent me earlier, she'd stop by to check June's latch and leave early because I seemed confident. I had thanked her with a thumbs-up emoji, like an idiot. I didn't confront him immediately. I wish I could say I did, but the truth is, postpartum depression messes with your sense of what counts as real. I told myself I'd imagine the way he said. I told myself Kendra had just leaned over the crib to adjust the swaddle, and I'd caught a weird moment out of context. The next day, I replayed the audio. The monitor saves 30-second clips with timestamps. Mine had a minute and a half. 30 seconds is regular crying or a sock knocked off. A minute and a half means a whole scene. I started paying attention to things I'd been too tired to see. He was suddenly going for a run at sunset even though he hates running. Kendra started bristling when my sister was in the house, like June was hers and my family were amateurs. Evan teased me for being so sensitive when I asked basic questions like, "Why did you lock the nursery door last night?" He laughed and said he must have hit it by accident with the laundry basket. 2 days later, June had a pediatrician appointment. Evan said he'd meet me there from work. He never showed. Kendra texted me, "Want me to come?" I said no. My hands were shaking on the stroller handle in the waiting room. I felt like my chest was caving in. At home, while June finally napped and the baby monitor showed her tiny chest like a wave, I did the cliché thing and checked his iPad. We share an Apple account because we're suburban and stupid. No texts. No obvious smoking gun. But under screen time, it showed messages usage spiking between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. with a contact saved as ML, which isn't anyone in his family or mine. His lock screen wallpaper had changed from a photo of the three of us in the hospital to a generic mountain. When I asked where the photo went, he said, "Oh, my phone updated." Later that night, I clicked the baby monitor app again, heart pounding. I watched the black and white image of my sleeping daughter, and my breath fogged the top of my phone. I guess I wanted to punish myself. Or confirm something. The video feed doesn't lie. It just doesn't tell the whole truth either. At 12:14 a.m., the audio kicked in again without me touching anything. Whisper laughing. The creak of the glider. A muffled, "Don't, she'll wake." And then a sound that made my stomach drop. My daughter, half crying. The whispering stopped. Footsteps. The feed went back to quiet. When I went to the nursery in the morning, her swaddle was wrong. Different. Too tight. I finally told someone. Not Evan. My sister, who drove over in pajama pants and hugged me like she was cinching me to the earth. We sat on the floor next to a stack of clean onesies, and I showed her the audio clip. She didn't say, "Maybe you're hearing things," or "Are you sure?" She said, "Okay. We make a plan." The plan wasn't screaming. It was documenting. My sister works in hospital admin and knows how to build a timeline in her sleep. We wrote dates on a notepad. When Kendra started, when the run habit started, the times the monitor saved clips. We called Kendra's agency to ask for a copy of their conduct policy for our records. They emailed a PDF with words like boundaries, no personal relationships with clients, and immediate termination in bold. I printed it. I printed the monitor logs. I took screenshots of the ML screen time spike. I called my OB and told her my postpartum depression was now something hotter and scarier. She squeezed me in and wrote down my words like they were facts, because they were. "You're not paranoid," she said. "You're paying attention." She had me add a therapist to my plan, too. Revenge on the internet looks like drama. In real life, it looks like stapled paper and insurance copays. When I finally confronted Evan, I did it in the afternoon when June was down for a nap and my sister was in the living room pretending to watch Netflix so she could hear if anything got loud. I put the baby monitor audio on the kitchen counter and pressed play. He didn't look shocked. He looked annoyed. "What is this?" he said flatly. "The baby monitor," I said. "You're recording me in my own house?" "It records our daughter," I said. "And apparently you." He frowned. "You're making something out of nothing. You know your hormones are all over the place." That sentence landed like a slap. I said, very calmly, "Who is ML?" "Mark from work," he said immediately. "We've been talking about a side gig." "Who is ML?" I said again. He stared at me for a long time and then did this half shrug I used to think was charming. "It doesn't matter," he said. "Is it Kendra?" No reaction. Which was a reaction. He walked out like I'd exhausted him. The front door clicked shut. My sister came in and whispered, "He's got the telltale face of a man who thinks he's clever." That night, he didn't come home after his run. When he did, near midnight, he smelled like mint and someone else's detergent. He crashed on the couch. In the morning, he made coffee like usual and asked if I wanted eggs. I stared at him and thought, this is how people get erased while they're still in the room. Here's the part one wasn't ready for. The betrayal wasn't just the cheating. It was the plan behind it. 2 days later, I went to print an insurance form and found a stack of papers in the printer tray that didn't belong to me. A custody petition template. The kind of thing you download when you're Googling how to get full custody fast. The notes in the margins were in Evan's handwriting. PPD unsafe, and KA witness, and the one that made me sit on the floor so I wouldn't faint. Ask Dr. C for note re. Mom's mental state. K was Kendra. Dr. C was my OB. I didn't have the luxury of doubt anymore. It clicked into place like a lock. The whispering in the nursery, the sudden stories to his mom about me being overwhelmed, the gentle voice Kendra used that made me feel incompetent in my own house. He wasn't just cheating. He was building a case to take my daughter. The other, ML. Mystery solved itself by accident. A spam call came in and flashed ML as a recent contact on his iPad, which was still linked to our shared account. I hid info. The initials weren't a person at all. ML stood for monitored L, followed by a string of numbers. It was the second baby monitor camera we'd never installed, the cheaper one he'd suggested for downstairs, which he'd apparently tested with someone's phone. He'd renamed the contact. It was small and sneaky and stupid, but it was proof he'd been messing with the devices that recorded our lives. I didn't throw his clothes on the lawn. I didn't smash the monitor. I did what scared him more. I got organized. I took the printer papers, the policy PDF, the monitor logs, and my OB's note, the one that said I was compliant with treatment and not a danger to myself or anyone else, and I made an appointment with a family lawyer my sister knew. I brought June in her car seat. She slept through the whole thing. The lawyer, calm, gray-haired, the human version of a locked safe, looked at the evidence like she was assembling furniture. "You're filing first," she said. "We'll ask for temporary orders. You stay in the house. He finds other accommodations, equitable parenting time supervised to start because of boundary concerns." "What about Kendra?" I asked. "We'll notify her agency with the policy and the audio," she said. "They'll handle their own fire." They did. When I sent the email, with the policy highlighted and a single sentence, "This is what happened in my child's nursery," the agency director called me within an hour. Not a receptionist. The director. She apologized in that careful, choked way people do when they're both horrified and thinking about liability. Kendra's contract was suspended pending investigation. That same day, another mom I barely know from our neighborhood Facebook group messaged me. "Did something happen with your doula? I heard she's not working this week." Word moves like wind in cul-de-sacs. For Evan, I did one more thing that wasn't kind, but it was necessary. His mom, who had paid for Kendra and thought she was basically Mary Poppins, came over on Sunday with a casserole and a lot of opinions about how I should let professionals do their jobs. I sat her down. I played the audio clip. She put her hand over her mouth and said, "Oh." Then I showed her the custody notes. She whispered, "Oh, Evan." And then she said, "I'm so sorry," and I could tell she meant it. I didn't ask her to take my side. I asked her to take June's. When Evan showed up that night, my lawyer's email was already in his inbox, and his mother was waiting in our living room. He did that annoyed face again, like he was the only sane person in a house of hysterics. "You're doing this," he said, waving the paperwork. "I'm protecting our daughter," I said. "This is insane," he said. "You're blowing up our family." "You already did," his mom said softly. He slept at his brother's place after that. He tried to come back the next day to talk. I stood on the porch and said, "We can talk through lawyers." My hands were shaking behind the door, but my voice didn't shake. I felt like a baby deer and a brick wall at the same time. The legal stuff was boring and terrible, which is how you know it was real. Temporary orders. Mediation. Schedules. The agency terminated Kendra's contract permanently and reported her to the certification board. I heard she moved to another city. I don't know if that's true. I don't stalk her. I don't want her anywhere near my head. People love to ask if revenge felt good. It didn't. It felt like heavy boxes I had to move because no one else would carry them. There was no single triumphant music swell, just small moments. The judge saying, "Given the evidence, we'll keep placement with mom for now." My OB hugging me after a check-in and saying, "Your study." My sister putting a lasagna in my freezer with a post-it that said, "You've got this." The first twist taught me I wasn't imagining the crack. The second twist showed me the hole I nearly fell into. That's the difference between heartbreak and harm. One is a wound, the other is a trap. Do I still love the man who held my leg during labor and cried when June cried? I don't know. I love the idea of him. I miss the life I thought we had. I grieve it like a person. My revenge, if that's the word, wasn't setting his world on fire. It was dragging every lie into daylight so it couldn't grow. It was picking me, picking June. It was saying, "No, you don't get to use my illness as a plot point in your custody fantasy," and then backing that sentence with paperwork and a spine. We're not friends. We do drop-offs in a parking lot next to a police station because that makes me feel safe. Sometimes he looks tired in a way that makes me almost pity him. Then I remember the printer papers. Pity is a luxury I can't afford. I'm still in therapy. The PPD fog lifted gradually, like a morning that finally decides it'll be day after all. I keep the baby monitor, even though sometimes the small green light makes my skin crawl. It's a tool. It recorded one of the worst seconds of my life. It also proves I wasn't crazy. People online will want clean villains and clean heroes. Real life gives you messy people. Evan is not a movie monster. He's a man who chose selfishness and tried to justify it with my softness. Kendra is not a cartoon. She's a boundary breaker who will tell herself a story about chemistry and care to sleep at night. I'm not a warrior queen. I'm a tired mom who listened to the same 30 seconds 100 times until the truth stuck. If you're reading this at 3 a.m. with a baby on your chest and a knot in your gut, here's what I learned. Save everything. Screenshot everything. Tell one person who believes you. Use your quiet voice when your loud one is shaking. The world listens better to calm women than to screaming ones. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. Use that unfair rule against itself. June is 7 months now. She belly laughs at the dog and chews on the same spoon like it's a love letter. Sometimes at night, when I check the monitor and see her hand sprawled above her head like she's claiming the whole crib, I feel a shot of fear and then a shocking wave of peace. The room is just a room again. The sound I hear is just a breath. The rest is paperwork in a file and a story I survived. I don't know if this counts as revenge or just survival with receipts. Maybe both. Either way, I'm the one who gets to write what happens next. And if I had to leave you with one line, the one I'd whisper to the camera if I were braver, it's this: I didn't need to burn his life down. I just had to stop letting him light matches in mine.